Hey, Luke, welcome to Crosswalk Talk.
Hey man, thanks for taking the time to chat with me, man. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Luke is the producer of the new movie Unsung Hero. Of course, he's part of the group for King and Country as well. It opens in theaters April the 26th. And let me read a plot summary. The plot summary says when a father's successful music company collapses in Australia, he moves his family to the United States in search of a brighter future, only to face more hardship. Of course, that is referencing your parents, David and Helen Smallbone. It's not your story, it's their
Yep.
story. I'm curious, Luke. I watched the film. It's excellent. How old were you when your parents moved to the U.S. and what do you remember about those first few months?
Yeah. Well, I was nearly 5 years old, and it's one of those interesting things of I remember everything. I've had a lot of people ask, well, if you remember everything, then when you're really scared, and it's
Mm,
funny. I think what I've realized is if you're loved, you can go through all sorts of trials and tribulations, and you're aware that you're poor, you're aware that money's tight, you're aware that food might be a little bit scarce, or that you're sleeping on a bed made out of clothes, but you don't really care. If it's the inverse, if you're going through these things and you're not loved, I think there's trauma attached to everything that you walk through. And for us, yeah, man, I remember all of those memories. I learned how to push mow lawns at 5 years old, and I loved it. I still to this day love mowing lawns. And so yeah, we went through some really really interesting seasons and times, and I think more so for my parents. I mean, obviously you could tell that the film centers around their kind of plot lines a little bit more than the kids. But that's it was in some cases a wild adventure. In some cases, we really enjoyed it.
you learned to mow lawns. What else did you learn during that time? You guys mowed lawns? The movie shows you guys mowing lawns. It shows you guys
Yeah,
cleaning houses.
yeah.
At one point, I believe you guys wind up on the doorstep of a well-known musician.
Yep.
Yeah, tell me about that. What happened there?
Yeah, man, we love to do anything and everything. We maybe don't take offense to this, but we used to joke that we did all the jobs that Americans don't like to do, and that we were good with that. That was how we stayed alive. But yeah, we did end up at the on the doorstep of Eddie DeGamo, who was a record label executive. He was
Yeah.
just kind of was finishing up his band, the DeGamo and Key, if you guys remember that band from many years ago. And I actually interviewed Eddie on the set and said, "Hey man, so let me just get this straight. Like, obviously, we tell the story on in the script that we show up on your doorstep, we knock, and I was pretty young. I don't remember coming to your doorstep, but what was that like?" And he goes, and I said, "Is that even true?" And he goes, "No, no, no, you absolutely showed up on my doorstep." And I said, "Well, what did you think?" And he said, "Man, I just recognized that there was a family that was willing to work, that was
Mm.
struggling." And I just felt like I had somebody else mow my lawn, but I just decided that I was going to give you that opportunity. But here's what's crazy. My dad kind of knocks on the door, they have these conversations, we end up mowing his lawn. Well, years down the road, obviously, that's the same guy that gave my sister a record deal. So I joked with Eddie. I said, "So did my dad, in some cases, knock on a door and end up with a record deal?" And he goes, "That's absolutely true."
That's incredible. Of course, your sister's Rebecca St. James, who is portrayed in the movie as kind of helping turn that financial
Yeah.
low point in your parents' life. The movie depicts your father as being despondent at times, even depressed. Your mother is determined not to give up. Why did your mom cling to this hope of staying in the U.S.? Why not just go back to Australia?
Yeah. I've had a lot of people actually ask this, even in some of my own journey of just different things that we've walked through over the last 10, 12 years for King and Country. And they say, well, why did you cling to faith and hope in this situation and not just, either, in my mom's situation, return home, or to
Yeah.
a lot of other people, give up on faith, give up on Jesus. And I always say, why? I mean, think about that. You've got nothing to hinge your life on. Why would you turn back on something that is the very thing that is the foundation of wisdom? Is that actually why would you turn your back on something that is? And I think that the wrestle of following Jesus is making sure that that faith that you have is actually real. Well, the only way to really test to see if that faith that you have is really real is to go through trials, is to go through
Mm,
very difficult circumstances,
mm.
is to go through struggle. Because then once you've gone through those things, you get to reflect back on, man, remember when I saw God that was so faithful? And I
Yeah.
think my mom had enough experience experiences with Jesus, even growing up, that there was no turning back on that. Yeah, could there have been the debate of do we go home or not? I think they did have some of that debate, but there was no going back on hope in Jesus.
Hmm. Do you remember your father as being sad during those times?
So one of the things that we in this film making it, you make a good point. I do have a very very small cameo, but I'll let folks figure out what that is in the
Okay.
film. But you'll never really know. But I was actually the guy that pitched this to Hollywood many years ago. So I've been entrenched in this story for a long time, and we were trying to figure out. My father is actually a complete optimist. He is not necessarily the guy that we depict as a little bit disgruntled, depressive in the film. But here's the thing: the reason why we did that is because that's the internal struggle that was going on.
Sure.
And in films, you have to show the things that are actually happening in some cases internally. And so, my dad did have a day, obviously, or two where he couldn't get out of bed after those deals went bad. His dad died. It was a pretty difficult time. But my dad actually isn't. My dad is an optimist. He always is
Mm.
thinking the best of situations. But I think that what was taking place that I couldn't see is what was taking place in the film.
What's the message for audiences? What are the lessons you want people to take away from your story, your family story?
Yeah, I mean, for me, man, my wife Courtney and I we got four kiddos. I'm a big believer in the power of family. I think that family is more important than it ever has been in the history of the world right now, but yet we value it not to the level that it should be. And my hope is that people will see a story like this and they will leave the theater and they will go, I want to be a better dad.
Mm.
Or a son says, I want to be a better brother, or a daughter, a better sister, or a mother, hey, I want to be a better mom.
Mm.
I want to learn to have, I want to learn to have a relentless faith. Because I think that if we're going to see revival take place in America, it will either take place through persecution or through the family.
Mm.
Because family is that important. I think I heard it said the other day that if a father attends church with his kids, I think it's 83% of the time his kids follow in his stead. That is how important a mother and a father is in a household. And my hope is that's what people will take away. They'll take away that the unsung heroes can be ordinary stories, but they can be life changing and they can change the course of your life.
It also contains some powerful lessons about, remaining hopeful during trials, which
That's
your
right.
mother did and your father did as well. I'm curious. A talented actor portrays you as a child,
Yeah.
curly haired JJ Pantano. I'm not sure I'm
Pantano. Yeah.
pronouncing his name right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did a great job. I'm curious. Did you get to give him any pointers on what
I
you were
didn't
like?
really. No, I just kind of we got to hang out a good bit, and I think that that's what's funny is when you're an actor, you've got by the time you show up on set, they've already kind of done the work. You know what I mean? They've already kind of seen what things like. They've read the script. They've seen a little
Yeah,
bit who you are. We had some maybe early discussions,
yeah.
a little bit about kind of who I was, but for the most part, it was you take the script and you interpret it a certain way, and I think the script was written fairly accurate to how I was as a kid. But he was a great JJ. It was super fun. We had a lot of fun on set.
Did a great job. Of course, most of the movie portrays you and your father trying to pull you guys out of this financial
Yeah,
pit. The
yeah,
end of the film, we get to see your sister Rebecca St. James, of course, who was and is an amazing singer. At the end of the film, she's kind of coming out. She's kind of
yeah,
rising up in terms of in the CCM industry. Shows you
yeah.
guys, you and your brother Joel, being backup singers. I'm curious, whose idea was it to launch for King and Country?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, we had. I played sports growing up, and I really wanted to play college basketball or really college any sport. I wasn't a professional athlete, good, but loved it. And I actually tore my ACL playing basketball my junior year of high school. And I was very confused that once again, going back to my mom, as to what to do. And I went to my mom and said, "Hey, mom, what do you think of, everyone else in the family's got kind of their thing. And I felt like my thing was just taken from me."
Mm.
And she looked at me and she said, by the time you graduate high school, I think there's going to be one thing left for you to do. And sure enough, Joel had actually been working on some music, and my dad had come to me years ago and said, "Hey, Luke, you can sing. What do you think about working on that?" I was just like, "No, I'm not going to do that." I used to make fun of people that got into music, and he said, and so anyway, Joel came to me in that fall after graduating high school and said, "Hey, man, what do you think about writing some songs and singing on some demos?" And man, at the end of the day, an idea is very, very fragile. Any new idea. And for whatever reason, I think Joel and I just we worked for 5, 6 years with virtually no success at all, and it wasn't like there was this lightning bolt moment of this is going to work or whatever. It's just that we started to learn how to write songs and did the best that we could with the opportunities that we were given in those early days.
Awesome. Well, we're glad you did. We're glad you did. We've been speaking with Luke Smallbone. He's a producer of the new movie Unsung Hero at unsunghero.movie. It comes out in theaters April the 26th. And Luke has a cameo somewhere in there. I didn't catch it, but maybe other people will. Hey, Luke.
Watch closely.
Thanks so much.
Hey, man. Appreciate your time.